Hi there, I'm Dan McGowan. I'm a clean comedian with a passion for raising the bar on clean comedy. This podcast is all about clean comedy, and I'll be interviewing clean comedians and entertainers, and we'll find out what makes them tick, or what ticks them off. So if you want to learn more about clean comedy, stick around, because this is just pure laughs. All right, well, my guest today is Stacy Pederson. Stacy is a speaker, like a keynote speaker. She's an actress. She's a comedian. She has worked with a lot of companies, including Salvation Army, the National Association of Home Builders, All America Bank. There's some interesting things I want to tell you about Stacy before we jump in and have a dialogue here. Stacy, it says that you've learned how to turn challenges into laughter, and maybe we'll talk about that. You've been described as using witty, clean humor that engages audiences. You are fun and relatable. You have survived life's toughest moments with grace and grit. Wow. Other interesting tidbits. You were raised by hippie parents. You starred in the world's worst horror film. And you love speaking at events because hotels come with housekeeping. Stacy Pederson, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you with me.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, you can tell that was not written by my ex.
Oh, okay. Got it. Yeah.
That was very kind.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. The other stuff probably we couldn't put in print or say on a clean comedy podcast. But yeah, got it. Yeah. So Stacy, tell us a little bit about you. Where are you? You're in Colorado, right?
Yes, I live in the Denver area now, but I raised my children and lived in Colorado Springs for 26 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, I was in Denver for 15 years, so I know the Springs, and we actually lived in Aurora. I was on staff at a church in Aurora for 15 years, so many years ago. But that's kind of where I got my comedy kind of start. Not my original start, but a lot of my experience came out of the Denver comedy scene, so which was a lot of fun. So just tell me more about you. Like, how did you get started with everything you're doing? You do all this keynote speaking for events. You are an actor. I'm assuming you perform comedy, stand-up sometimes. And so talk about all that. Let's dive into who Stacy is.
Sure. Well, so I have a degree in theater. So I'm a trained actor, and I did stage, film, commercial, television. And then I've been married twice. And with my first husband, I quit acting. He wasn't a fan of that. So I didn't act for 15 years, but I did a lot of writing scripts and stuff for other people, and they came out funny. So after a divorce with him, I got back into acting and started performing my own script, and I never heard of anything called stand-up comedy. I was 35.
What do you mean you'd never heard of stand-up comedy?
Never.
So you weren't aware of people like, I don't know, Phyllis Diller or Don Rickles or any of these great stand-ups? Really?
Nope, I wasn't.
Wow.
Yeah, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere, and it was very rural, and we had no arts whatsoever, and half the time our TV didn't pick up anything.
Yeah. So
people ask me about music or movies or sitcoms in the 80s, and I have no idea what they're talking about.
Wow.
So
now, does this kind of stem from, did you grow up in a commune? When you say with hippie parents, were you?
No, but my parents had been in communes before.
Yeah. Wow. So your home life growing up, you just didn't have television. You were out in the boonies. Is that kind of what you said? And
yeah, just living off the land, Dan.
Wow. And so what changed when you were you said 35 is when you first heard about stand-up?
Yeah, well, what happened was I performed one of those monologues, is what I thought it was that I'd written. And then somebody from the church saw it and asked me if I wanted to perform for the women's retreat that fall. And so I did what I thought was a one-woman show. I did an hour. I had no idea it was comedy. So after that, people were like, your stand-up comedy's so funny. And then I got hired to do somebody's Christmas party off that event. And I was like, what is this thing called stand-up?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That is so fascinating to me.
Yeah. So I tried to study it, and the writing, I still have a hard time considering myself like a stand-up, because, I don't do my punch. It's more storytelling that just ends up being funny. I don't think I have tons of punchlines. But
that kind of comedy is becoming, well, two kinds are becoming very popular. One is ultra vulgar, raunchy. That leg of comedy seems to always be out there, and some of it's funny, and some of it isn't even close to funny. Yeah. But then there are people like Nate Bargatze who are really creating a new market for this more storytelling. I'm just going to call it stand-up, but it's peppered along the way with moments that might elicit laughter. That's what it sounds like you're doing.
Yes.
We're doing, yeah.
Yes. I would very much say that.
That's so cool. Because I think people relate to that, especially if your stories are relatable. And somebody said on your website that you're fun and relatable. So,
Yes. I paid them to write that.
Very good. Yeah, good. It's amazing how great we can sound with a little bit of money behind it, right? Yeah. That's good.
So then I started getting hired and for events doing basically clean comedy. And I did a lot of bad events, just trying to figure things out. And then in 2013, I beat all the comedians in the Colorado's Got Talent competition.
Nice.
And then I have a story of almost dying a bunch. So
you mean dying in comedy or dying?
No, well, both. And sometimes still. So in real life, and so that's my story so what happened was people would hear my story and go, wow, we want you to come and be funny, but could you come and tell us how you got through what you went through? Wow. And so then I was a comedian with a message. And then in 2016, a speaker saw me at a conference and he pulled me aside and he goes, you are not a comedian. You are a funny keynote speaker. And I said, why? And he goes, well, how much do you get paid if you headline? And I said, well, if I headline and it's a Christmas party, I can make $500. Yeah. And he's like, add a zero starting out as a funny speaker. And I was like, I'm sorry, what?
Wow.
But what I discovered was that I really love that, giving a message and being funny more than I ever loved the clubs. I still do stand up, but I love doing like shows for women. So I'm with the Moms Unhinged stand-up comedy show, and
isn't Stephanie McHugh part of that? Or?
Yes.
Yeah.
In fact, she's my favorite roommate when we travel.
Oh, fun. Yeah.
Yeah, because neither one of us can get to sleep before 2, and neither one of us want to talk to anybody before noon. So she's like the perfect person for me.
Yeah.
I really love those shows.
So you're part of that. I don't know if you're on the fringes or deeply ingrained in the Denver comedy scene. Is that?
I would say I know a lot of the comedians and a lot of the female shows I'll do, but I'm not down at the open mic and doing all that. No.
Right. Well, that's great. So now you talked about performing at church. Have you always been a Christian since?
Yes.
Childhood? Okay.
Yeah. So, here's the thing. My parents were hippies, and then my mom got saved in a hammock. She was laying in a hammock outside.
Wow.
Before I think I may have just been born. I can't remember. So anyways, I grew up in a little Southern Baptist country church, but they were still hippies. So I like to say I was a Christian anti-vaxxer, because they were both. They were like
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, right.
natural medicine and conservative. So it was
Right.
very unique upbringing. I like to say I can grow potatoes, can tomatoes, gut a fish. I am a real catch if it was 1867. I can do it all.
That's good. That's good. So now, do you have siblings who grew up in that? Okay.
Yeah, I have an older sister and a younger brother who both turned out to be Marines. So I
really?
don't know what happened to me.
Yeah. But somewhere along the line, you got this entertainment kind of bug, right? To be in front of people and perform.
No. In fact, I still don't like getting in front of people.
Come on. You enjoy it, don't you? No, you don't like it?
I enjoy it once I'm started.
Oh, okay. It's the lead up. You're like, oh, Mom, I got to go do this again. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm terrified. I have terrible stage fright to this day.
Well, I think if performers are honest about it, I've been doing stand-up for a long time, and I still, right before I go up, I think, wow, okay, here I go. I hope they like it. Tomorrow night I'm doing a gig, and I'm in my head, it's like I know what I'm going to say, and it usually gets laughs, but I hope they laugh. Because if they don't laugh, then I'm going to feel kind of crummy walking off the stage, Yeah.
Yes.
But I think that's a normal part of what we do.
Yes, I think so too. I think my journey with that was I always loved stories. I was an avid reader. And so I just read. And then I had a really long bus ride to and from school, and I would make up characters and stories in the back of the bus, not knowing that was acting, because we didn't have any arts whatsoever except band. And my junior year, I had a teacher who asked me if I'd ever thought of acting. And she took me to a competition, and at that competition, one of the judges pulled me aside and was like, "How long have you been acting?" And I said, "Today." And so she told me about this program that she ran where they took 60 students from around the world and interned them for several weeks in the summer at this world-renowned theater. And she invited me to apply, and I did. And that was my very first experience with any form of the arts. And then that same teacher took me to a second competition, and I won a full ride scholarship for college. So I actually never stood on stage or did any acting until college.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's such an incredible and inspirational story for anybody who thinks, well, how could I ever do this? What do I have inside of me? But it sounds like, I obviously I know you're a Christian, and it sounds like maybe God must have had a calling on you early on to plant into your head or into your guts, get in front of people, do what I'm calling you to do, which is speaking on topics of interest, and do it in a way that's humorous so that it impacts people and embraces them and engages them and all that. I mean, that's an incredible gift that God gave you.
Sometimes.
Okay, so when is it not a good gift? It sounds like you've had a lot of highs and lows.
Yes, very much so. Because I want to quit every 3 months, like I have no self-esteem. You get one bad crowd and you're like,
oh yeah.
Woo!
Yeah. I'm sure you've been like me. I've been, I'll be performing stand-up, and everybody, there's 100 people in the room. 99 of them are laughing. I can do nothing wrong. But one guy sitting there with his arms crossed and a scowl on his face. Yeah. And I'm like, you know, what am I doing wrong? I called a guy out one time. I said, why are you even here? Why did you even come to the show? You know, you should have just stayed home, you know. But anyway, yeah.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And when I do conferences, they do written reviews. And so it is the same thing. It's like 99% everybody loved me. And the 1% I was the worst hour of their life. It was torture. How dare I suck the air out of their life and room. And that, of course, is naturally the one that I'm prone to listen to.
Yeah, to pay attention to. Right. My wife has been telling me, I filmed a dry bar last year, comedy special, and I don't read at first I was starting to read the comments because they posted to YouTube, and a couple of them were not favorable. And my wife says, just don't read the comments. Just, you know, forget them, you know. And so I don't read comments anymore, or try not to, because we are swayed so easily by those ridiculous comments.
Yeah. And YouTube is rough, man. I can get like, YouTube's the worst as far as negative. You're not. Well, I'm not funny because I'm a woman. That's usually the.
Is that that's usually people actually really say that because you're a woman? You're not. Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, all the time.
Yeah.
But there's some thoughts behind that. But yeah. Anyways.
Well, although, you know, you could have a sex change operation these days and, you know, take care, and then you'd be really funny. You know, you'd finally have achieved that level of humor that we all obviously are looking for.
Need to have. Yeah. Well, if I had the operation, I would still wear a dress and that would make me trans. So that would be highly
There you
confusing.
go. See, you'd be right. Everything fits today. It doesn't even matter. So you're this podcast is about clean comedy and or clean entertainment, I guess. I've had magicians on and actors and so forth who all try to work clean. So how do you have a line for that defines for you what is or is not clean? Is that something that okay, yeah.
So it depends on the audience. Well, I don't cuss. I'll be honest. A few words fly out here and there when I'm off stage because my mother cussed like a sailor. And so I just was raised with, so every once in a while, if I stub a toe, something's going to fly out of my mouth that I'm not proud of.
Well, but you know, all I can say to that is enjoy hell, you know. But you've made a conscious choice to, whether you're speaking or performing comedy or whatever, even acting, maybe, I don't know, to keep it clean.
Yes. So I don't cuss. I don't talk about sex. I do talk about being a woman, like certain female body parts, but usually the upper end. And my stomach. And that is dependent on the audience though. So if it is a Moms Unhinged show and it's all moms who have breastfed their children, they understand what's going on, right? On the upper half. Yeah. And so I don't consider that dirty because it's not a sexual nature. It's just, you know, your body gets shredded as a mom.
Well, and it goes back to that relatable thing. You know, you're looking at your audience, you know who they are. And you know what you can say to them that will not offend them, but it'll relate to who they are, where they're at.
Yes. And I don't talk about politics. I don't talk about religion unless it's at a church, but I really don't do churches anymore.
Yeah.
And so
why is that? Did something happen that you don't do churches anymore? Do you think churches don't want comedy or speaking anymore? I'm just curious about that.
Oh, sure. It's twofold. Yes, some things happened. But the other thing, some things happened and I find myself not as conservative, in my beliefs and political system as I once was.
Yeah.
And also I'm divorced twice. So when I get inquiries from churches, and usually it's for a women's event, I will let them know, hey, you're going to want, you know, your committee to know I'm divorced twice. I am less conservative. about certain issues, and that is on my social media. So you'll, like, if you're looking for my testimony and all of that, I was like, I'm not the right fit for you. I said, if you're looking for like someone relatable who struggles, who whatever, then that's the right place for me. And some people don't, like, I never hear from them again. And other people are like, that's exactly what our women need. So.
Wow. Well, I think it's great that you take the time and effort to be honest up front and let them know, here's what you get if you bring me, and leave it on them. Let them decide. And that really, as cliche as it sounds, probably that's God deciding for you that that's not the right place for you to be, you know?
Yes. Or it is. And that's always cool.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah. And it's part of it is I worked in ministry for a long time. So I kind of know the standards in some aspect of like what's expected of a speaker or a pastor or whatever. And I'm like, I am not playing that game anymore. Yeah, like I'm a real person with real struggles, and my life is not perfect. And I don't want to give the false impression that I read my Bible 24/7 and I never do anything wrong. Like, it's just not realistic.
Yeah. You're an actual human being, flesh and blood, who lives on the planet. And, you don't want people to think that you're something you're not. You don't want people to think you're something you're not, which is integrity. That's what that's called, which is great. I know I said at the beginning, and I know I saw it on your website or something I went to about, surviving life's toughest moments with grace and grit, turning challenges into laughter. I don't know if you want to talk about any of that and share any of that, but that sounds like there's something below the surface there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of a long story. So basically.
Well, really, I mean, we have 2 more minutes, so whatever.
Okay. Get comfortable.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Sit back.
Might want to take a bathroom break.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I'll just let you talk, and I'll come back and see where we're at. That's great.
Okay. So, I got married to my first husband, and then he was diagnosed with a severe illness when I was 30. Oh. And, we had 2 very young children at the time. And, it's actually a terminal illness, but he thankfully he's still here, which I'm happy for my kids.
Wow.
But I went through about 3 years, where he was too sick to work. And so I was working 70, 80 hours a week, multiple jobs, because I was a theater major. And when you're a liberal arts major, my value in the workplace is, will that be for here or to go? Like, that's what I was for. But I had a positive attitude, and I'm like, it's just a season. It ended in divorce, because it really began to affect him mentally. And so I left for the safety of myself and my children. Yeah. And no one's ever like, hey, when I grow up, I want to be a divorced single mom. Like, that's usually not what you're going for. Yeah. Then, I met my second husband, and, during that time, I stepped on a rusty nail.
Whoa.
I was building a children's musical theater set, and it's actually the week my divorce was final. I ended up in the hospital and almost died. I was in septic shock. And
oh my goodness.
I do remember the moment of thinking, I think I'm almost dying.
Oh, wow.
And I had 3 thoughts. The first was that I was like, that what everybody has is that the value of spending time with the people you love. Like, I hadn't done that, I felt. The second was, I was like, what? You just worry and you work and you stress really hard and then you just die. Like, I was kind of mad at God, like, oh my goodness. Yeah. And then my third thing was, I realized I had been such a people pleaser and trying to fit into these molds that I just didn't discover existed, because I didn't grow up in them, of a suburban wife and a good Christian person, like all this stuff, that I felt like I was such a people pleaser. I had just tried to be what everybody else wanted and never fulfilled the calling God had given me. So I had basically wasted my life.
Wow.
So I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I left the hospital. I couldn't walk. I ended up losing my job.
Oh.
My main job. So I felt like in 3 weeks' time, I had lost my marriage. I'd lost my home. I'd lost my health. I lost my job. I lost my ability to take care of my kids. But I still had a positive attitude. And I'm like, it's just a season. The infection has come back now 7 times.
Oh, wow.
Each time, so I've had 7 PICC lines. I've had 2 major surgeries. And each time it came back, and I got less and less resilient. In the, it's just a season and just have faith and I finally fell apart. I was diagnosed with PTSD from almost dying so much, and went through about 1.5 years of pretty dark depression. And I do remember a moment in my living room after one of my major surgeries, and I was sitting there and I was like, okay, God, what if you're not real? And I tried to think of what the world would be for me if God didn't exist. And I couldn't. There was too many things in my life where I know he had his hand on. And so what I told him is I was like, okay, well, I know you're real, but I don't like you right now. And that was kind of the journey of coming back. What I found out 2 years ago is that rusty nail, it was a misdiagnosis. It was never from the rusty nail. I have a rare bacteria called brucellosis, and it comes from drinking raw dairy, raw goat's milk I grew up on and took care of the goats and the sheep.
Wow.
And so the good news is that it's curable. The bad news is that it's curable. So if I had been diagnosed correctly the first time, I wouldn't have gone through everything I've been through. So I had to kind of come to terms with that. And my thought process with that is, the diagnosis was wrong, but the lessons I learned are still valuable. I'm still thankful I have the wisdom and the compassion and the empathy I have for those who are struggling and hurting because of it. So I did a year of antibiotics last year, and for some reason it didn't work. I almost died in September, and I'm on antibiotics again, but this time I think it's working. Like, I'm kind of excited about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, Stacy, what an incredible, I was going to say testimony. I guess it's a testimony, but I mean, it's a story of your life that has its roots in your childhood, really, with all the goat milk and everything, the raw goat milk, leading up to where you are today and what you've gone through with all these multiple times, with the PICC lines or at the doctors or whatever it is, and now on the meds, that you need. And so I guess I'm wondering, I'm guessing that all of this, your backstory here, is what you use to weave into anytime you are doing a speaking engagement, right?
Yes.
Are you in front of people that maybe have not dealt with the exact same thing, but they've had discouragement in life, and here you are up on a stage, hopefully encouraging them?
Yeah. So, and it's funny because I think just struggle and heartache and loss, the things that we don't really talk about, or you don't think about a motivational speaker talking about. They're always like, pick up your bootstraps and just be happy, and here's my 5 steps to a perfect life, and this is why I make millions. Like, that's what you think of with a motivational speaker.
Yeah.
And I get up in front of all kinds of audiences, and the thing that I always think of is that I know there's people there in the audience. Somebody just got diagnosed with cancer. Somebody just is discovering they're going through a divorce. Somebody has a teenager that's out of control. Like, people out there are hurting. That is the one thing, especially since the pandemic, is that people are really struggling. And so my goal is just to bring some laughter, because through laughter, able to let go a little and more open to just feeling better about life and receiving hope. My whole goal is just to bring hope. That's it.
Yeah. Stacy, I love that. I mean, that's where I tend to live as well. I've only done keynotes a couple of times, but primarily I've done, stand up. But I want to touch on something we kind of brushed by real quickly, and it's fine. But you were talking about being mad at God, and I'm assuming you're not mad at God today.
No,
okay, maybe you are.
I have my moments.
Of course,
I have my moments where I'm like, I'm not mad at
yeah.
God. I've had some things happen where I'm still mad at specific things about the American Christian church.
Yeah.
But I separate those two. Like that to me is not one and the same.
Okay. And so a minute ago you talked about bringing hope. So do you align that hope with wherever you are with God at this place at this stage in your life?
Yes.
So, and I'm bringing that up for a specific reason. I know there are people that are going to hear this who have no relationship with God whatsoever, and it's important for them to hear, I think, that hope is not just something you get in a fortune cookie. Hope is something beyond that. And does that make sense, what I'm saying? Is that something you can relate to? That hope is deeper than that?
Yes. And there was one time when I was really struggling, I wrote out the word hope. And if you write out the word hope, you can see the word one in it. It's really, I even made a logo. It's kind of hard to explain, but there looks like there's an N in the letter P and,
oh, cool.
And I was like, that's how hope works. Hope is us doing one nice thing, one kind gesture to somebody else. Basically, the Bible says that they will know us by our love. Yeah. And I think that whether people are believers or not, we all have the power to provide hope to somebody.
I agree.
At any given time.
Yeah.
And we all need it. We do.
We totally do. And I don't care where you are on the ladder of being a Christian, whether you're like, a pastor in a big mega church or you're just starting out, everybody on that continuum needs hope. Because we live in a world that is constantly trying to discourage us and bring us down, and ruin us. And so we have to have something we can cling to. Man, I love hearing your testimony and your stories. And so where do you go from here? Do you have visions and dreams of what's coming next? Are you just one day at a time? What's the future look like for you?
Well, see, this is where I'm like, hello, God, I've been through a lot and I want millions of dollars and infamy. And everything to be easy from here on out. And a much better metabolism than what I've got right now.
I mean, are you healing? Are you in a place where your body is healing and all those issues are being taken care of, or are you still sort of crawling along?
I am still crawling along a bit. Antibiotics, I'm on 2 of the strongest antibiotics there are.
Wow. So
that right there alone is a bit of a struggle, but because I've had sepsis so many times, that also you never fully recover. So there's just, and my PTSD is never gone away. Wow. So I definitely have day-to-day struggles. But as far as my goals are, I'm supposed to have written a book for years now because everybody always asks me for a book.
Right.
And then when I got the misdiagnosis, I was like, oh, it's a good thing I didn't write the book because it was the wrong ending.
That's good. No, that's,
But now I'm just procrastinating out of fear and my ADHD. That's why I need to get the book done. And I would love to continue to perform. And I'm really starting to love coaching other speakers because I realize I can make more of a difference if I help, a few get out there with important messages as well. Then that's a greater impact than just me. And I love that
I love that too. I love working with, newer comedians and just helping them figure out how to write a joke and how to perform it and how to connect with your audience and blah, blah, blah. It's not always easy. Some people are, I'm sure you face this, or some people are just they've got it all figured out. And, you can't teach somebody something if they've already got it all figured out. All you can do is say, well, here's my story. Maybe it'll work for you. And you nod your head and watch how they respond. And if they respond favorably, then great. And if they don't, then that's on them, But I really resonate with you on that desire to, encourage others.
Yeah. Yeah. It's fun to see him succeed. Like it's just.
Well, yeah. I mean, it must be thrilling for you to do, let's say, a speaking engagement, whoever the audience is, and get up and do your thing and have people respond during it, whether it's laughs or moans or people in tears, whatever it is. And then at the end, to me, sometimes that's the most special moment is at the end when you're all done doing your thing and you're sweating and trying to get a drink of water and people come up and want to talk to you. That's a great time to have those one-on-one conversations with people that I think help emphasize, that's not the right word, but help, what's the word there? I'll edit this out. When somebody comes up and tells you that you're doing well, it helps emphasize your skill, There's a better word there than emphasize. Come on, you're a word person.
I'm like...
You're like, here I am crying out for help, and I just need to know what the word is.
And I'm just letting you flounder.
You are. Because
that's
okay. That's okay. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, I'm just talking about when people are able to, give credence to what you're doing, and that's a great feeling when somebody comes up and can actually corroborate what you are doing, and Yeah, well, I think I finally got to the word. I don't know.
It works.
I don't know. Yeah,
we'll just blip it out.
Right, exactly. Yeah, one long beep. It'll be great. People think, "What's Dan saying on that clean comedy podcast?"
That after part for me is the only reason I've kept going when it's been hard.
I hear
but
you.
For a different, it is because. I'm not sure why, but people open up and they share their story of what they're going through or what they've gone through.
Yeah.
And it's very much a privilege for somebody to feel safe enough to share with you some of their, worst moments of their life or what they're struggling with. And
and especially if they view you as somebody who is choosing to be transparent yourself. It's amazing what honesty and transparency can do. And sometimes it's a little bit, it gets you nervous about what, I can't believe I'm about to share this, but people can relate to that because how often do we get that? We don't get that anywhere. All we get is fake or propaganda or sensationalism. And to hear somebody get up and share their heart or what they've been through is so refreshing, and it gives a person, I think, in the audience the opportunity to go, okay, they get me. And now they can come up and talk to you because you're relatable and fun, as your website said.
Yeah. Again, paid for.
Right.
But...
Right. Yeah. Right. That's good. Yeah. Because really, I don't relate to you at all, and you're nowhere near fun. But it's good to have a guest on like you. We can just bear with it. So, tell people how they can reach you, how they can contact you if they're interested in having you come and speak at their event or whatever.
Sure. So I have two websites. The first is my name, Stacy Pederson, which is actually really hard to spell. It's a terrible name. It's STACYPED as in David, ERSON. So it's stacypederson.com. That is my speaking website. My coaching website for speakers is boringtosoaringspeeches.com. And then
what is that? Boring to soaring?
Yes.
I like that.
boringtosoaringspeeches.com.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll let you say it. I was talking over you.
Yes,
boring?
you were. No,
I was.
just
No, I know. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm doing my commercial right now.
I know you are, and I'm totally. I'm heckling you. I shouldn't be. So go ahead. Tell us your speaking. Your coaching.
boringtosoaringspeeches.com. And then, of course, I'm on social media. Well, most social media. I'm not on X, and I'm very sporadic about YouTube because I get my feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's always those people that are like hiding in their basements. And I'm going to tell Stacy what I think. You know,
Yeah.
Like just go make a bowl of cornflakes and calm down. You know?
Yeah.
All right. So those are great ways to get a hold of Stacy. Anything else you want to impart on us before I shove you out the door and move on? And any other thoughts you have for us?
No, that question caught me off guard. I don't have anything profound or brilliant to say, I don't think.
Okay. I think what you've said has been amazing. And I think people who listen to this will be inspired and encouraged. And that's sort of the takeaway you want people to have when they hear you. So that's exciting.
Okay.
Well, Stacy,
Right.
I have sure appreciated you taking the time to be with me today on the podcast. And, I'm watching this thing grow and get more listeners, and, that'll be great. And maybe down the line, more people will listen and they'll hear this again. So that's exciting. But Stacy, thank you so much for being with me today on the Just Pure Laughs comedy podcast. And boy, much success and blessings to you, Stacy.
Thank you. Same to you.
Hey, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Stacy Pederson. She's an actor, she's a keynote speaker, a comedian, and she brings a message of hope to people who might be facing discouragement in life. Make sure you check her out. I'll put links down there in the description. And make sure you subscribe to this podcast so you can hear past and future episodes with some great comedians and entertainers who like to lean clean with their presentations. Thanks. This is Dan McGowan. You've been listening to Just Pure Laughs, the Clean Comedy Podcast. See you next time.